All right, we're going to get the basic WordPress blog page working and displaying some information. So the first thing we're going to do, let's look at our blog page on our HTML template, and we can see that there's this top area we need to have added in. Let's just copy that and add it in. That doesn't need to be anything dynamic. That's just going to be the same on every page, the blog there. So this is our index.php that we're editing. We'll go in here, add that div class top, save that out and take a look at it. Okay, and then now the rest of the content inside of here is basically going to be looped blog post. So I'm just going to show you how this works. We're going to take the loop from the WordPress codex. We've been here plenty of times, but the same loop that we've been using, which is if have post, while have post, the post. We'll just place it a little further down there, and we'll place the end of the loop here a little bit further down. And I'll comment these out real quick.
You will comment them, not necessarily comment them out.
All right, is that what I said? What do you think I said?
You said I'm going to comment them out, which means like...
Oh, yeah.
Code.
I will comment on them. Starts the WordPress loop. Okay, so the basic way, the loop works a little differently on a blog page than it does on a single page. On a single page, it knows I'm just grabbing the content from this single page. On a blog page, which we've set this through our settings, the post page is blog. So it knows that it's going to be looping through all of whatever specified post type we give it. The default is just posts. It's going to grab all of our blog posts. So let's just put something inside of the loop and see what happens. Right now I'm just going to put PHP the title. So this should grab the title of each of the blog posts that we have. It will loop through them and show the next one.
Yep.
Actually, I'm going to add a H1 tag around it so that they're each on their own individual line, because H1 is a block level element. Whoops. Let's save that, refresh this, see what we get.
Yay.
Yeah, those are huge H1s. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted. Post 1, post 2, post. Actually, it looks like it's going in the reverse order. So the most recent, which I created, is post 3. That's the way it's automatically sorting these. Later on, we're going to get into how to sort these aside from the default sorting method, so you can change the way to whether it's the oldest post first. You can sort it a lot of different ways, or exclude categories, include only certain categories. But for now, this is just showing you kind of what's happening in here. We can do the exact same thing with, let's copy this out and let's do another one. Actually, it just needs to be PHP the content. And of course, that's going to output the entire blog post for each one of those. I'll save that and look at that. So all of our blog is output there now as well. There are a lot of different WordPress template or WordPress functions or tags you can use to say, I want to get this content, whatever. And we're going to do that specifically to make it match our blog listing page here as we go. But this is just giving you an idea of how a basic loop would work. Let's cross out that content, though. We don't need it. We're going to go ahead and copy in the basic structure of all of this to make sure the formatting is all the same. So click on your entry content here and copy the HTML of your entire class there. And I'm going to do this all before the loop here. So we're just going to paste it all in right now, and then we'll make it dynamic afterwards. Let's paste all that content in. And let's see what we got here at the top. So we've got a div class entry content container, which we need to have that container element. And then the way this is laid out is on our HTML page, we went ahead and added each article individually. So with a loop, we only need to have one article and then have it looping itself for as many as there are. So all of the additional articles, let's just delete those. Everything below that first article.
Yeah, that's us going to get rid of that extra sidebar. Oh, you can take it out.
The sidebar is still going to be here. And actually, we've already got this. We have this set up a little bit differently in our other pages. All of these widgets are being created dynamically. So we can delete those widgets out and actually leave here and go to our what page was that on? Those are the single.php, which is the single blog listing page we just finished with. And it's just, we just have this secondary, and then we're pulling this dynamic sidebar.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll replace that, make that part dynamic. Okay, so now we have a dynamic sidebar. We're going to have one article, and then there's a loop here, but nothing's happening with the loop yet. Let's just make sure our formatting looks right here first. That looks exactly right. So that's pulling the dynamic sidebar, which is correct, and it's just showing that one static article. So now let's make this article dynamic. The way we're going to do that is we're going to grab this loop, and right before the article starts, and keep in mind this is going to be, the names of the elements. It might be div class post or whatever. It's just called, this is just the naming convention that we're using here. Doesn't matter what it's called. It matters that inside of the loop is that content that you want to show for each blog post.
Well, let me ask you this then. If we're doing that, do we need to put the ending of the loop down below all this content, or are you going to put that content inside there? Is that what you're doing right now?
Exactly. The content's going to go inside of the loop. So again, this is just going to be an explanation of how this works. We'll do this. Let's just save what we have right now, and what it's going to do is output this same loop, the same content, over and over and over. And notice how many times it does it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's how many posts we have. That's why it's doing it 5 times. But what we said is put out this exact content for every time we have a post.
Right.
So instead we need to say put out the content of the post for every time we have a post. So let's start with this right here, which is the time stamp. And let's see. I don't think we need the date time there. That's more specific. Let's just take out this number right here, and we'll put in our PHP code the time. And now I think we have the structure of it set up right on our single.php already. We used PHP the time and then FJY, which gave us the right format we're looking for. So let's paste that in actually. So each one should have a dynamic time now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the entry header, we have an entry title. And so this is going to single/blog.html, but that needs to be dynamic, and also the title needs to be dynamic. So this is pretty straightforward. This is the title. Right here, there's another WordPress function that we can use to make this dynamic called the permalink.
And of course, that's going to grab the permalink for that post.
Yep. Let's just do that. We'll leave the other two static right now, so we just take it in little chunks at a time. So each one of these should have a different date and a different post name, which it does. And these were all done October 22nd. This was October 21st. Fantastic. And then each one should link to its own post via the permalink. As you can see in the bottom left corner here, this is going to post 2. You can open that, post 1, open that. There's post 2. There's post 1. So we're well on the way. So now let's get our posted by. Let's put the author information in there. The rest of this, should really be pretty straightforward. We're just figuring out the code snippet that goes in each section. We know that this is called the author.
And again, all of this stuff we're pulling is in the WordPress Codex. I can't say it enough. We know it. We do it all the time. But if we're going too fast for you or it's confusing, look up the code we just used and you'll see exactly what it's doing.
Yep, PHP, the content.
And as you can see as well, it's really self-explanatory.
Right.
When you look at what we're doing, it's like, oh, well, this is the entry content, the content. This is the author of the post, the author. This is the title of the post, the title. Very, very easy to remember and easy to use.
Yep. So this is going to be our category. Is it the category?
I would imagine.
I'm going to look that one up to be sure because I don't remember if it's the category or categories. WordPress Yep, the category. That looks right. And there's also going to be a link that you can find. We'll assign this as homework, but the category is linked to a categories page. So you'd have to actually create a categories page that showed only information from this category, which is using a little bit more of a custom loop, which we'll be able to show you how to do in the next section. Let's go ahead and save this change out and see what our theme's looking like now. So there's not much content in each one of these areas, but this is basically the right idea. The categories are showing up correctly. This has two different categories here, posted in this and this. This is the actual content for each element is inside of them. Admin is listed there, which is the author. And we could actually go ahead and say, instead of that, we could say posted by.
That'll really clean that up.
Make it look a little bit nicer, right? Or written by or whatever. So that looks a little bit more like it. I mean, that's basically it. We have a basic loop set up now. There are more complex things that we can get into, and we will get into in the next section. But we basically have a dynamic WordPress blog set up and functioning now, and each one of these is going to go to the correct page. Now you'll see that if I click on one of the categories, uncategorized, it's just taking me back to
the
index.php. So there's a page set up called category uncategorized, but since we're not using the template structure or the template hierarchy to create a specific page for each category or a specific query for each category, it's just taking us back to the main loop. So if you wanted to have it do that, to say all of these categories, you need to create a more specific page that said, that followed that template hierarchy in order to do that. That's it for this section, and we'll get a little bit more in depth about the loop here in the next section.